Welcome back to the Blitz Bird Podcast. In today's episode, we've got a lot to unpack. First up, we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers departing the Jets. Next, we'll be hitting on some of the hottest NFL free agents and trade rumors. And to wrap things up, we have our first special guest, Wofford linebacker Kade Moledor, and we'll be taking a deep dive into what it truly takes to become a D1 athlete. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. What is up, everybody? My name's Jack McCarthy, and I'm here with our very first special guest, Kade Moledor. Kade, why don't you go ahead and for those people that don't know you, kind of give a little background information on, position, school, class.
Yeah. So like you said, my name's Kade. I've known Jack since he was your freshman year, probably 8th grade. So,
yeah.
We've been good friends since. So I graduated Dawson County in the class of 2023. Out of high school, I went to North Carolina A&T, which is a FCS school up in Greensboro, North Carolina. This past year, I transferred to Wofford College. So I'm in my first semester here at Wofford. I'm very excited where I'm at and excited to be on the pod.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about. And to start that off, we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers. He's leaving the Jets. They broke up. I mean, I think everybody kind of saw this coming. What is kind of your first takeaway on how that whole 2-year stint went with the Jets?
Yeah, A-Rod. First year, you can't really say too much. I mean, Buddy popped his Achilles game 1, 2 minutes into the game.
Played 4 seconds.
Yeah, dude. Tough situation.
Tough.
Year 2 was lackluster. I mean, you watched it. Really underwhelming, especially with the weapons they put around him. Obviously, I can't say it's his fault. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, especially losing your head coach. 4 games into the season?
Yeah, it was really early. It was
really weird fire. I don't know. The Jets, it's a poverty franchise. I mean, it's just
it was really just an all-around mess. Like you said, the first year there was really nothing he could do towards Achilles. The first drive, I think that was something that you couldn't overcome within that year. But yeah, the second year, man, that was terrible.
Rough, man.
Very underwhelming.
Rough.
Very underwhelming, like you said. Very disappointing. Coaching staff kind of failed him. Front office definitely failed him, and I think Aaron Rodgers kind of failed himself. I know a lot of people are debating whether he is kind of a washed veteran quarterback. He is 41 years old, so he's a little bit more fragile, not as mobile, kind of like Kirk Cousins almost. But he did end up finishing last year 8th in passing yards and 7th in total passing touchdowns with 11 picks. So a pretty decent year from him. I was thinking if their kicker, Greg Zuerlein, made about 85 to 90% of his total kicks, I think the Jets probably would have been in the playoffs because there was a lot of games where he kind of choked late down the stretch. Yeah. But either way, kind of very, like you said, underwhelming from Aaron Rodgers. Now, there are, several teams that have drawn interest towards him, kind of the betting favorites, so to speak. And those 3 teams are the Steelers, Raiders, and Titans. What team would you think that he goes to and kind of fits the best? He is, old, so it would probably just be kind of a 1-year, maybe 2-year deal. But where do you see him going?
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like A-Rod belongs on the East Coast. I definitely could see him in a Raiders uniform. He was in the Midwest forever. Obviously, he's been the Jets for the past 2 years. I think he really just would want to go back to the West Coast, in my opinion. I mean, he played college ball out there, was in the Midwest again. I mean, so I could see him in a Raiders uniform, especially if they would pay him.
Yeah. I mean, the Raiders, they have a lot of cap space. They got a new head coach, new GM, a lot of exciting stuff going on in Las Vegas. Yeah, that's a good take because, he did grow up out west, so that would make a whole lot of sense. It's a bit of a warmer climate. They play indoors, kind of, a big market where everybody can see his face day to day. I know he's kind of that player that wants to be seen and kind of the drama queen in the NFL.
But also wants to act like he's the nonchalant Yeah, he wants to sit
Yeah.
in his darkness retreat, sweat hut thing. I mean, it,
Yeah. He's a
dude's all
weird
over
guy,
the
so he
place.
he definitely he'd definitely be good out west. Um, yeah, I mean that's a really good team for him. I think the team that I would have him going to is the Titans. The Titans have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of young talent. I know that Will Levis didn't pan out, so I mean they have no quarterback at all.
Yeah.
They could draft. I mean, they got the first overall pick. We were talking yesterday, and you said, they could draft, Cam
Hmm.
Ward, have him sit behind Rodgers for a year, maybe even half a season. But then again, and you mentioned this yesterday whenever we had talked, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers would want
Yeah.
to do that
He's a
because he always kind of wants to be the star of the
very selfish
show.
guy. Very selfish.
Um, yeah, he definitely comes off as kind of he wants to be the center of attention. At least that's the way it was in New York. I know that the media is definitely a little less critical in Tennessee. It's not a as big of a market as New York. I mean, New York's the biggest football market
Yeah.
there is. So going from Tennessee or going from New York to Tennessee definitely a little less hostile environment as far as the media. But yeah, I mean those are some really good points. I definitely think within the three teams that we named, I could see him going to either team really. But the next topic we have would be some of the NFL free agents, just mainly the top two I've got listed, and then we're going to talk a little trade rumors. There's a couple trade rumors going around the league right
Mm.
now. The first two NFL free agents that I want to hit on and kind of get your take on is Sam Darnold and
Yeah.
T. Higgins. Both of these players are really polarizing players. I mean, they were really good last year. I know T. Higgins kind of battled some hamstring
Hmm.
injuries, but granted, that's comes with every wide receiver eventually in his career. Now, Sam Darnold, on the other hand, balled out for you know the first 15 games. Then the last two, he kind of fumbled the bag, probably lost a max deal with
Yeah.
the Vikings. Do you think that T. Higgins or Sam Darnold will end up on a different team, or do you think they get re-signed?
I mean, it's tough. The T. Higgins situation is like, I mean, obviously you're playing with Jamar Chase and a Joe Burrow who's a great quarterback, and a team that, for the most part, the last couple of years has been pretty established. Um, but it's tough. Like again, if you want to be the number one guy, you're gonna have to leave because you're not gonna get put over Jamar. Generally, like
Yeah, yeah, that's in it. He's the best
yeah,
wideout in the league
exactly.
right
So you're
now.
not touching that spot. But if you're unselfish and okay, you're willing to take maybe a little less than you make, say at like a team like Tennessee or like some of these bottom tier teams, like then take the cut. Win if you'd rather win or you'd rather get the money. That's really what it's coming down to. But I'd like to see him
Yeah.
stay in Cincinnati personally.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that's a great point. Like you said, if you want to win, because I personally think the Bengals are Super Bowl contenders each and every year. If their defense hadn't failed them last year, I could see them making it all the way to the AFC Championship with the Chiefs. They're a really
Yeah.
talented team, and like you said, he will never. Unfortunately, he's a great wideout, but he will never surpass Jamar Chase. I don't think anybody in the NFL right now
Uh-uh.
would, other than Justin
Hmm.
Jefferson, maybe. But yeah, I agree with him having to either take a pay cut or stay on the Bengals if he wants to win. The rumors that are out there is that they're going to franchise tag him, which would leave him with a salary of $26.5 million
Yeah.
for that first year. Now, I don't know how much of that is actually guaranteed. If I had to guess, not a
Yeah.
whole lot. There's probably definitely a lot of incentives and stuff that come along with that. But, like you said, he could go to a Patriots, Tennessee, teams that really need a wide receiver one, and he could flourish, especially if the Titans get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or a young quarterback in the draft like Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. So those are really good points you brought up. Now we'll hit on Sam Darnold. He was an elite quarterback throughout pretty much the entire year. He had a couple games where he kind of laid some
Hmm.
duds, but that's given. Every quarterback's going to be, have those games that are they're just off and they don't really do well. But specifically in the last 2 games of the year, he looked really, really bad. He looked like Jets Sam Darnold,
Yeah.
which sparked a lot of controversy in the free agency because the Vikings did draft uh, Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy, and I mean he right now he got injured, so he couldn't play. But what do you think? What do you think they do? You think Darnold walks? You think he goes for the big money, or do you think the Vikings resign him? I mean, it's a
Hmm.
very weird situation in
Yeah,
Minnesota.
personally, I don't think he's not going to get the money he wants in Minnesota just because they have put, a first round pick, which is really valuable, into uh, JJ McCarthy. I almost forgot his name because I don't like him very much. Obviously, I'm an Ohio State fan.
Yeah,
He beat beat us for 2 years, which I'm not a fan of. Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough for him if they do resign. He will have to. He's not going to get the money he wants, especially after how he played for most of the year last year. It definitely did show that he struggles in big games though, and obviously it was his first successful year in the league. Um,
first
yeah,
meaningful
and
year.
so it's kind of tough to say because I mean he's not. He's still what? How old is he now? He's
I think he is 26,
Yeah, he's
27.
not old. Uh,
He's still a really young player. He's got a lot of years still left
Yeah,
in
so
him.
it's tough to say. I mean, I feel like there is some teams that would take a chance on him, sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal, but I don't think he's getting that big quarterback contract that we've seen a lot of these quarterbacks get over the past couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like a Trevor Lawrence or a Jalen Hurts
Yeah,
contract,
he's
so to
not getting that
speak.
money. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, he lost that money, in the last 2 games of the year
Yeah.
for sure. Though those are some pretty good points. I think the Vikings would be foolish not to
Hmm.
re-sign him at least for another year. I just don't think you can let a quarterback that led you to 14 total wins. I mean, a 14-5 record. I just don't think you can let him
Yeah.
walk. Like you said, he lost. He's probably going to lose a lot of money in his contract with the way he played the last 2 games. A lot of controversy surrounding whether he'll walk, and I think ultimately, I think the Vikings will re-sign him. I just they're kind of a franchise that always seems to do the right thing. I think as you see in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, I mean, he was terrible for the last half of
Bad.
the year. So the Vikings have a pretty decent history of kind of knowing when to sell or knowing when to re-sign. And they have so much offensive talent. They got a great head coach who they just re-signed
Hmm.
to a pretty big contract. It'll be kind of weird to see what ends up happening because whether they resign him or not. But the real question is, I think, is if Sam Darnold does go to a new team, say the Raiders or say Tennessee. I've seen him even going back to New York. I just don't think he'd be the same
Hmm.
player because not every coach is going to have that offensive mind like Kevin
Yeah.
O'Connell. What do you think that if Sam Darnold does go to a different team, how do you think that pans out? You think he takes kind of a step back from where he was this year?
I mean, well, first of all, you're not going to be playing with Aaron Jones or Justin Jefferson everywhere you go. So that
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, in my opinion, he's a system guy. He's a system guy. He's not one of those that is just like a quarterback that's just going to blow your mind. He's got to be in the right system for him to succeed. So it's really going to depend if he does get in a system similar to Minnesota's. I feel like he could be in a pretty good spot if he does go to another team. But just if you look at it at face value, like if you're looking, just outside in, he is a system quarterback in a very easy offensive system in Minnesota.
yeah,
So that's another thing that's going to cost him money, I think. And it's
yeah,
going to be a big argument.
yeah. You made the term system quarterback. I kind of view Sam Darnold as kind of like a a way more athletic version of Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense that he's kind of a game manager at some points, but he can make the big throws when needed. And he doesn't really get a whole lot of credit for how mobile he is and how tough he is. I mean, he got hit and pummeled in some
Mm-hmm.
games last year, and he would just pop right back up, move on to the next play. So he's a really good player. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think that wherever he goes, I think he will be, you know, good enough a top 15 quarterback wherever he goes. I think that, coming into the league, he went to the Jets. That's, you
It's
see
tough.
even Aaron Rodgers failed
Yeah.
in the Jets. So, there's really a lot to say about that topic and a lot of controversy whether he will end up leaving or they will end up re-signing him. Now we'll move on to some of the trade rumors kind of circulating the league right now. There's really two major trade rumors. That is Trevor Lawrence being traded to the Steelers, and the Rams are moving on from Cooper Kupp. They put him on the trade block. They want him
Mhm.
out. So we'll hit on the Cooper Kupp trade first because I think that's a little bit
Yeah.
more realistic and more interesting. What do you think the plan is for him? I mean, he's an older guy. He's a little injury prone. He's missed 17 total games in the past
Mhm.
4 years. But he did have that triple crown year where he was the best wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, if you had to pick a team in the league right now, say Washington, Tennessee,
Mhm.
the Patriots. I mean, there's plenty
That
of
need
teams
him.
that
Yeah.
that would love to, yeah, that would need him, that
Mhm.
would love to have him. So do you think he ends up getting traded, or do you think this is that the Rams are bluffing right now?
I think his run there is over. I think they're moving on with Puka Nakua, personally. I mean, he's just, like you said, he's getting old. Um, and so I think they're going to try to get as much trade value out of him as of right now, just because, say maybe 2 or 3 years, if he keeps going on the track he's been on with the injury. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. You missing seven.
He's unpredictable with
Very
his
much, yeah,
health, to
very
be
much so. So
honest.
it's, yeah, I mean, jeez.
And we were just talking about a system quarterback. You could also make a claim for him that he's just a system
Yeah,
wide
I mean,
receiver.
like you were saying yesterday, not really the most crazy athletic guy, really good route runner. But Sean McVay's offense put him into a lot of situations where he could succeed. And especially with a great quarterback like Matt Stafford, that offense is going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So it
Hmm.
put him into a really good spot. And so it's going to be weird to see him on a new team. But I feel like if he would have to succeed at a team that's willing to throw the ball 40 times a game, 30 times a game.
Yeah. Get him that high percentage target share. Kind of work things around him. You bring him to a new team. I would imagine he would be at minimum the number two wideout. I can't see him being a three on any team in the NFL. So you think that the Rams are going to move on? I know you said they're wanting to kind of center the ball and the scheme around Puka, which makes a whole lot of sense. He's a really young,
Mm-hmm.
talented player. I think I agree with what you said there. Now, what do you make of this whole rumor of Trevor Lawrence to the Steelers? The Steelers wanting
But
kind of just a plug and play quarterback that they don't really quote unquote have to
yeah,
develop because after Big Ben retired, the Steelers have just sucked
quarterback
offensively.
play and
They
dude,
they
Kenny Pickett. I mean, it's
yeah,
just
dude,
terrible.
yeah, and it boils down to I don't think Mike Tomlin's a big scheme
Mm-mm.
guy. I don't think that they're very good offensively with their hires for offensive coordinators, and I think the front office is almost a little scared to make a move. So I do kind of like the aggressiveness with wanting to go get coming out of college a generational talent such as Trevor Lawrence because things haven't really panned out for him in Jacksonville thus far. So what do you make of that? Do you think that this trade is even possible?
The thing is, I mean, I feel like Jacksonville would be willing to trade him just because he has. I mean, he was injured a good bit last year. Really hasn't been productive since they won that playoff game a couple years back. In my personal opinion, like you don't hear much about Jacksonville, you don't hear much about Trevor Lawrence anymore. So it's a tough situation. But also, the thing I'm wondering is if they're willing to take on that contract because it is a big
Yeah,
contract. I mean,
very
personally,
big.
I'm not paying Trevor Lawrence that. I mean, dude's been mediocre at best. So I just
Mhm.
can't think of anyone wanting to pay him that.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of see it as the Jags maybe are trying to do a little scapegoat, trying to get out of it before they're kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
thick of it and they have to continue with it. He was injured with a concussion for like the last several games. I think he could have gone back, but I don't think that they wanted to risk him getting re-injured. I do agree with it's just kind of a weird situation, but I could definitely see this trade happening. Trevor Lawrence is a guy. He's young. He's talented. I don't think he's reached his full potential in any measure. So he's kind of like a Sam Darnold in the way that he's such a polarizing player. Jacksonville's not a huge market, but you look at Trevor Lawrence and you're like, man, this guy was the
Oh
guy in
yeah,
college. I mean, he won a national championship. He led Clemson to he was historic at Clemson. That's the best Clemson team of all time. So he's a very interesting player, and this trade rumor is very interesting as well. Um, now, with that being said, we will move on to our final kind of segment of the show, and this is going to kind of dip into the toes of what it really takes to become a D1 athlete, kind of what the steps are, what kind of goals you have to set, who you have to be as a person, so to speak. So my first question for you is kind of at what moment in your life were you like, hey, like, I know I'm a good player. I know I have the potential to take it to the next level. At what age did you really see becoming a D1 athlete as an
yeah.
achievable goal?
I was probably around 16 years old, so about my sophomore year, like kind of in the I'd say February, January area. You know, actually, a couple of my buddies, Matt and Cade, you know them. We talked about
Yeah.
college football like it was a religion, man. So like we all wanted to have that opportunity. So we all kind of got together, especially after I had a pretty good year, first team all region, led 3A in not sacks but tackles, and was on an honorable mention list for All State and a second team guy and another list for All State. So I felt like it was achievable, and I was competing with other Division One athletes. So I was like, this is something I can do for sure. And but I mean, obviously, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, nothing good comes easy. That kind of leads me into the next question. I know you mentioned, you, Matt, Cade kind of got together, and the whole idea of college football, y'all kind of followed religiously. What kind of steps did you have to take to really maximize your work ethic? Because I remember in high school, every time I would go in after hours to work out, you would be there. Every time I was down at the field, you were down there already running drills. So what kind of work ethic does it really
I mean,
take?
like work ethic is. I mean, dude, it's different. It's a different level, especially now, man. It's a job. Like, I'm
Yeah.
having feels like 10-hour days just football, which I love it, but it is a lot. But especially in high school, man, work ethic gets you far. But it really helps having those guys to kind of kick you and be like, yo, why are you not at the field with me right now? Like, why are we not in the weight room? Especially like on Saturdays, a lot of people would be out doing stuff and, maybe going to parties on Saturday night. And there would be us at 10, 11 o'clock at night in the weight room, like grinding. And so that was
Yeah.
our fun in high school. And so I
Mhm.
really appreciate those guys like Matt and Cade, a couple other dudes early on, like Nick and Jaden, just
Mhm. Yeah.
really pushed me to be the best I could possibly be, and especially just reinforcing that, you can make it, you can do this thing. So,
Yeah, kind of like that little extra set of
yeah,
motivation. If they were there, you were going to be there.
yeah.
You weren't going to let
No,
anybody
you had to,
outwork you.
because it
So to
was like a
speak.
competition and it made it fun,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, every athlete loves a little friendly competition, which is definitely a good thing. And I mean, yeah, you worked blood, sweat, and tears night and day to get to where you're at right now. What what do you think is kind of the major difference between high school and college? I know, obviously the competition and kind of the work, but I kind of want to hit on some of the preparations, so to speak, as watching game film, kind of how do you manage all your classes? Because, you're a sophomore, I'm a freshman in college. I don't play football. and college is, still
Yeah.
pretty tough. So how do you manage that day to
I
day?
mean, it definitely helps having people that want to see you succeed inside the athletic building. I mean, we have we have academic staff that any time of day, you can shoot a text, email. They'll get you a tutor. They'll get you into the writing center. So there's a lot of help that goes into it because obviously, dude, if I did this alone, if I was having to handle all this by myself, I mean, it would be
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to manage, especially if you're a full-time
Mhm.
athlete, full-time student. That's got to be
Yeah,
a
no.
lot.
So time management's definitely a big thing. I mean, usually we're up, I'd say around 6 or 7 o'clock, and I'm not going to bed till almost 11 most nights. Because you have practice, and then you have meetings, and then you got to find time to eat and do schoolwork, and now you're watching extra film on
Mhm.
the side, trying to pick up little tendencies. So I mean, most days I mean, it's a full time job from about six a.m. to the time you put your head on the pillow. I mean, it's a lot,
Yeah.
but I mean, you got to love it, man. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely gotta be, you have to love the game to a different level. I love football, but, coming out of high school, it's like, no way I wanna advance this and
Yeah,
play in any sort of college ball. I mean, it was great to have you on. I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to come on to the pod. I know we had been talking about it for quite
yeah,
a while, but finally nice to get you on here and talk a little football with you. Best of luck to you at Wofford this year. That'll be pretty fun to watch. I'll definitely have to tune in on TV, see some of your games, watch you play. Do you think you're gonna be in the lineup this
I
year,
mean,
starting or
yeah, I
what?
mean, they told me coming in like you're going to be one of the guys, so you got to be ready. I mean,
Yeah,
because you don't just bring transfers in to sit the bench.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
they're expecting you to. It's kind of a plug and play type thing. So I'm excited,
yeah. Oh
very
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great opportunity that you got there down at Wofford. Like I said, thank you so much, man, for coming on, talking a little ball. It was great to have you on. You're a friend of the
Hmm.
show, our first ever special guest, so that's pretty cool. And I'm sure we'll get you on here sooner or later, probably whenever the college football season starts to
Yeah,
roll around, things get interesting. Maybe talk a little spring ball. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I'll definitely hit you up in the near future to film another
yeah, man.
episode.
Appreciate you having me on.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with special guest Kade Moledor. Hope that was really entertaining for y'all. If you would like to see more special guests, hit us up in our DMs. We'll shout you out. Go follow us on all of our social media platforms, all at Blitz Bird Podcast, and make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Peace.